Greetings, Legionnaires, and welcome to another episode of Critical Intelligence, the show where we kind of dive into things a little more specifically. I'm your host, Jimmy Good. Thank you so much for being here, and also a huge thank you to Missile Mage for requesting this video. I always tell people, if they want to see a video, all they have to do is ask for it. And you know what? I'll put my money where my mouth is, or I don't know if that's the right saying. Anyway, today we're talking about Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West. Now, for people who don't know, I'm a decently sized fan of Horizon. I really enjoyed it back a few years ago, and I still think about it, even talked about it recently in some of my favorite video game music of this past generation. So there's that video, and also a Horizon Zero Dawn review if you want to go back and check that out. But today I was asked to talk about the 14-minute gameplay demo that we got recently, and we're going to dive right in. Let's go. So I took some notes here, so that way if you look like, what's he doing? I've got my notes. I've got a lot of notes here. But I want to start with this. The music is still amazing. Every time I hear it, my heart swoons. I'm like, oh my gosh, the music. I love it. I love it so much. So I just want to point that out. That's not necessarily new, but it's something for me. First off, let's talk about the setting. It's a tropical setting, but it's in San Francisco, which at the end of the video, they kind of talk about that it is San Francisco, even though it is very different than modern day San Francisco, because this takes place a long time after humanity has been around. But you kind of see the Golden Gate Bridge and whatnot at the end. I'm like, is that San Francisco? Yes, it is. I love the new tropical setting and the lighting. Oh my goodness. If you look at this stuff, it is incredibly amazing. It looks so nice. Now, this game is going to be a cross-gen game that's going to be on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I believe this is running on the PlayStation 5, so I'd be really curious to see what this is like on my PlayStation 4, see if it turns into a 747 or takes off into the atmosphere. I don't know, but it's still pretty cool. If you have PlayStation 4, you can still pick this game up. But the setting, very different, at least in the beginning portion here, than the first game. It'll probably have different biomes in it. The first one did have a bunch of different ones. There was like desert, the forest, mountainous regions. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that come back. Or maybe they're committing fully to the tropical thing. Either way, it looks fantastic. I want to start by talking also about the new Raptors, or the Claw Striders. I had to write a bunch of this stuff down because there's specific names here, and I want to make sure to get on point. Those things look sweet. I love the dual chainsaw like bottom jaw that they have. That thing is amazing. That thing looks really cool. And I do like that with the kind of the discovery that dinosaurs probably had feathers more recently in the scientific history here, that they're trying to incorporate some of that into the mechs as well. And these raptors are big. Now, again, for people who are out there, if you're a Jurassic Park fan, you know that a velociraptor was probably about 2 or 3 feet tall at tops. But the raptors in Jurassic Park are more like Utah raptors, and these ones, the Claw Striders, are even bigger still. They're pretty massive. Like they're not like Thunderjaw like the T-Rex from the first game, but still they're getting up there. And it's really cool because later on we do see that Aloy can turn them over to her side and she can ride them, kind of like you saw in the first game. But yeah, the Claw Striders I really enjoyed. I thought it was pretty cool. They have a Sonic Blast attack, which you see 2 kind of AoE or 3 AoEs in this gameplay demo that I think are built more for a group, but you just see kind of used on a single target. So the Claw Striders use their AoE on, or it uses AoE on Aloy, and then she uses a smoke bomb to kind of get out of there. And then later on, you see her use an AoE against a single target. We'll get back to that later, but I did like the Sonic Blast that the Claw Strider had. Aloy has a ton of new tricks, and I will kind of talk about them as we go throughout the demo here. But the smoke bomb I want to talk about first. You know, that's a nice little thing to add to her arsenal. It's been a few years since I played the first game. I don't recall a smoke bomb, but there's probably a chance that there was one in there, and I just, I'm pretty sure it's new. I'm pretty positive it is. But anyway, the new thing that I really like is the environmental focus scanner, which allows you to kind of scan an area and see what is climbable in that area. I had 2 big criticisms about the first game, and one of them was the climbing mechanics, because unfortunately, it was a really unfair comparison because it came out right alongside Breath of the Wild, which allowed you to climb pretty much anywhere. But it was pretty limited, and the climbing didn't feel super good in the first Horizon. But now it seems like there's way more options in there, which I absolutely love. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And she kind of uses it to it highlights it in yellow for her, as opposed to just being like, oh, there's some yellow pipe over there, like Uncharted style, or how they did it in the first Horizon. So I'm like, that's nice to see too. She also, during the sequence when she's running away from the Claw Striders, which seemed kind of scripted, they always play games like this or The Last of Us in a very different way than I would play them. I would try to take all these things down, but they're always just kind of running, so maybe they're like, you can't beat them, run. So, but she does have a pull caster, or what every great game has, a grapple hook. I was like, that's a grapple hook! Yes! Every great game has a grapple hook, and what I'm seeing here for Horizon Forbidden West, and I'll probably say this at the end too, but this is what you want to see in a sequel. You've got your fundamentals still baked in, but they are adding new things on, which is so nice to see. And while at first I was worried it was only like a horizontal grapple, later on you kind of see her use it vertically, I should say, kind of more Batman-esque. Very cool. And anyway, to get away from these things, she uses her diving mask, or underwater breathing apparatus is what I call it. I didn't know she had that at first, because it's pretty quick, and then at the end they tell you about it. That is wonderful. I kind of, I'm never excited usually to go swimming in a video game, because I'm just watching that oxygen meter. So throwing that on there is wonderful, and getting to explore these incredible underwater environments. Oh my goodness, they're beautiful. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so, so cool that you're going to be able to do this and do it infinitely. You don't have to be like, oh, you got to go back up for air or whatever else. It's like, nope, in this world, she'd probably have that. And I was kind of thinking she did beforehand. I was always thinking Star Wars Phantom Menace, where they've got the little rebreathers. I was like, she probably has one of those. And in fact, she did. Also, it was really cool to see a Snapmaw swimming from that direction. That was a huge Snapmaw. At least it looked like to me. And for people who don't remember, the Snapmaw is like the big crocodile-like mech. I always liked Snapmaws. I think they're really cool. Also, what a great name. I like Snapmaws, okay? I thought it was wonderful. Then we move on to kind of see that Aaron, our hammer bro, as it were, has been captured by some raiders, and these raiders have now gained the ability to overtake Claw Striders and a Tremor Tusk. We'll get back to the Tremor Tusk later on. But I think that's a fantastic evolution to the game, because a lot in the first game it was you fought the mechs by themselves, you'd fight the raiders, or kind of the scavengers by themselves. You didn't fight them together. Combining them seems like a natural evolution to me, and it's really nice to see that. So I was like, okay, cool, so they've got that power now too. But we get into a little bit of combat here. She goes up with her spear, stabs that person in the back, classic, sneak up behind somebody, instant kill. But she starts using it, and oh my gosh, this was my other huge criticism with the first game, is that the spear combat, which I guess was a minor thing, but it seemed like a big thing to me, it didn't feel great, it wasn't fantastic. This looks so much better. There's way more weight to it. You can see the momentum of her attacks and her kind of dodge around animations where she swings it, and with the momentum, it's almost ninja-esque. I freaking love it. I was like, yes, this is exactly what it needs to be. So Aloy has upped her spear game a bunch, and I'm so happy about it. I love it so much. So yes, good job on you. Good job on you, Aloy. Good job on you, Gorilla. That looks fantastic. And some additions to that, along with the new spear combat and stuff, these things called Valor Surges. That was the other AoE I was going to talk about, or a super attack. She's fighting this guy with a big hammer later on, and she it's like a cinematic, like he's about to attack her, and she kind of uses it. It's like a quick special move that seems to kind of transcend time and space, and she does a big AoE and knocks him back. Again, probably better for multiple opponents, but she does that, runs up, attacks him again, jumps backwards, and does her slow motion bow arrow thing, which is I always love to see in these games, and drops him, and I was like, ooh, that was so good. One thing I do maybe I'm just I've become such a sadist, and I know that this game, I believe it's T for Teen, I'm always looking for the bloodletting, and this is a pretty bloodless game, so if there are parents out there or anybody out there who doesn't like a lot of violence, this game would probably be for you, because she's shooting people and stabbing people and there's no blood, even though I'm sure Guerrilla Games could add that toggle. Just think about it, Guerrilla. I'm just saying, just a thought. I don't know, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to do it, but it's just a thought. Anyway, I want to talk about this because we keep moving on here, and we see her traversing these ruins. She's gone through all this stuff, and then she jumps, and she pulls out the glider, the shield wing. I was like, oh, here's another thing. Again, a quality of life improvement you love to see in these open world games, because you play those first ones, and it'll just make them feel a little dated by comparison, but they were the first step. You got to have that first step. And, having that glider in Breath of the Wild, sorry to make these comparisons, but I have to. just personally, that's how I work. It was so nice, and to not have that in almost every other open world game. I'm playing a little Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now, and I can tell you this much right now: I could use a glider. But it's just nice to see that. It's like a laser grid kind of thing, like these hexagons put together, and gives her a lot of mobility. And we'll talk about that later on in the Tremor Tusk battle. But I really love to see a glider in this, and they said that you can use it for movement, but also you can use it to attack foes from above. Makes perfect sense, right? Right. Oh, that's fantastic. And then we move into the Tremor Tusk battle. This is what I was talking about before. This is kind of their new Thunderjaw kind of fight. So the Tremor Tusk is a large, elephant-like creature. Gives me Mumakil vibes or Oliphant vibes for my Lord of the Rings fans out there, where you have this large creature with this kind of turret or tower, I should say, on the back that's got 3 or 4 raiders on it. Has a big suite of abilities, and again, like that Thunderjaw fight we saw with the first Horizon Zero Dawn, is that she kind of picks it apart and actually uses a new item on it, a few new items, but the one that really stuck out, was the adhesive grenade. Oh my gosh, which gives me the ice vibes. I don't know if the ice grenades are still there, the cryo. Maybe it was there in the weapon wheel and I missed it, but using that to kind of make it all sticky and it couldn't move, and I was like, oh, I just love, for some odd reason, adhesive things in video games I always think are so interesting, and they like have a cool aesthetic to them where you're like, okay, like you can visually tell that thing is stuck, and you have some precious moments. And I love crowd control in video games, so ice or sticky stuff, that's great. So I was like, yeah, cool. So it's nice to see that. She also has this new launcher, explosive launcher, these kind of javelins she can throw, and they kind of blow stuff up. Oh my gosh, those looked fantastic. Again, I think that's new. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember her throwing javelins in the last game as much, but it's been years, so maybe. But yeah, so she has a few new things, and she uses an explosive arrow on its belly to take it down eventually. One thing I do really respect and appreciate is that when she's fighting this thing, that she takes off like a weapon and she uses it, but that weapon, when it falls off of it, it lands in the sand and is stuck in the ground like that. It's not just sitting there perfectly, it's like stuck. And I was like, oh, I love those attention to detail, baby. I love it so much. I was like, yes, I love that. That's fantastic. But I don't know, that Tremor Tusk fight, it reminded me like what is so cool about Horizon. There's a decent story in there, and the combat against the people is fine, but like you're coming there for the big premium sweet fights that you don't really get in a lot of open world games like this, to this extent, where they are so complex and there's a lot of thought and meaning that goes into it. And that really excites me, because it's like sometimes these fights are very optional in the game. There's a lot of that you obviously forced to do for the campaign, but you'll see some of these things, in the open world, and you're like, I could fight that. Is it worth it for me to use my resources, to take it down, to hope we get some better resources from it? But I thought that was really cool. It's really cool to see her going on the Claw Strider too, and then it gets shot up. I'm like, oh, I wanted to see that thing fight in combat. Hopefully it has a little melee attack or something, or maybe you can hop off it and it'll fight for you, because I could totally see that being another wrinkle they add to this game, where it's like, well, the raiders have the ability to overtake these creatures now, and now you have always had that, but now they can kind of fight alongside you for longer periods. Maybe you can even have 1 or 2 and you can trick them out. That would be so cool. If they don't put that in this game, that'll be in the third game, where it's like, well, you pick a creature, you have a stable of creatures, and you can kind of min-max them. You can put some things on them, you can put some big rocket launchers on them. That would be really cool. But yeah, so there's kind of a brief rundown of my thoughts of the Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West gameplay. I hope you liked it, and let me know if you like this sort of video. I've always wanted to do more videos kind of like this, where I'm just kind of sitting and talking about something. There is the thought that maybe I would put the entirety of it behind me on the green screen. I think we'll just leave it up over here. It might be really intense if it's just shaking around behind me. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you are interested in seeing more, like I said, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to support the channel, seriously, just leave a comment. That's all you need to do. I really appreciate everybody who's been supporting us via our Twitch streams and our Patreon and Teespring. If you're interested in any of that stuff, you're more than welcome to check it out in the links below. But just hanging out here. That's the best thing you can do. I just love it so much. And please, please, please let me know if there's something specific in the future. I'm covering E3 right now for the podcast. We're kind of building up to E3. We'll do kind of a recap show. And if there are specific videos like on Halo Infinite or maybe even Starfield or whatever else that comes out, let me know and I'd be happy to cover it for you guys. So until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye. Ba-na-na-na. Ba-na-na-na-na. Ba-na-na-na. Ba-ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. Nailed it.